West Yorkshire coroner David Hinchliffe eventually released the body to his family after an inquest was opened and adjourned shortly after. Some of the victims' families said they felt cheated as Shipman's suicide meant they would never have the satisfaction of a confession, nor answers as to why he committed the crimes. Home Secretary David Blunkett admitted that celebrating was tempting. You wake up and you receive a call telling you Shipman has topped himself, and you think, is it too early to open a bottle? And then you discover that everybody's very upset that he's done it. And I think I can empathize with these people. You would want them to live as long as they can in a very bad situation, being in prison. Sorry, I had to get my cherry limeade in there. But I'm not against the death penalty. No, I think there are people that deserve it 110%. But I almost think at times it's more of a punishment to let someone have to live out the rest of their days in that prison environment, knowing that there's never any chance they're ever going to get out. To me, that's probably why they commit suicide. There's no hope. And when you take hope away from someone, there's nothing else. So hope is a tremendous motivator, right? It's tremendous. Things can happen for me. I'm hopeful. Good things can happen to me. If you're not in there on a life sentence, your hope is probably maybe I'll get early parole. Maybe I'll be released for good behavior. You have hope. People on death row, violent criminals who get life in prison with no possibility of parole, they have no hope. And they continue, most of the time, they continue to be the violent offenders inside the prison as well. So they can transfer that, whatever they were, casting off on these victims, they can transfer that to whomever's in prison. So that's why the culture's so different. Shipman's death divided national newspapers, with the Daily Mirror branding him a cold coward and condemning the prison service for allowing his suicide to happen. However, the Sun ran a celebratory front-page headline, Ship, Ship, Hooray. The Independent called for the inquiry into Shipman's suicide to look more widely at the state of UK prisons as well as the welfare of inmates. In The Guardian, an article by General Sir David Ramsbotham, who had formerly served as Her Majesty's Chief Inspector of Prisons, suggested that whole life sentencing be replaced by indefinite sentencing, for this would at least give prisoners the hope of eventual release and reduce the risk of their ending their own lives by suicide, as well as making their management easier for prison officials. I just said that. There's no hope. I feel confident that that is one of the reasons you see a lot of suicides. There's no hope. Now, there are others who acclimate themselves to their environment, and they'd rather be in that environment than be released. His name is on the tip of my tongue. Ed Kemper. He was that 6'4" big man who would pick up the female hitchhikers, and he would end up, putting one of them in the truck while he murdered the other one, usually in the back seat. And then he would, go get the other girl and murder her as well. And of course, all of that was because of the horrible treatment that he was given by his mother, and he killed her too. But he actually is one of those prisoners who has lived in the prison system the majority of his life, and he's content. And there's actually a chance that when he's 83, I think, he could be released, because that life sentence only had like I said earlier, like a 30 or maybe 60-year cap or something. But he has said that he would not go. He was content where he was, finishing his last days off in the prison system, because he's acclimated to it. I reckon he's He is a prolific reader. I think he works in the library. Or he did at one time, I believe. But I mean, he was not an idiot. I mean, the man was very intelligent, and he was just so beaten down by his mother. I cannot imagine treating your own child that way, let alone, how people treat total strangers. But I certainly would not think you would be able to do that to your child. But let me tell you, we all know it happens every single day. Every single day. So Shipman's motivation was never established, but I'm telling you, it's because he had no hope. And he did reportedly tell the probation officer that he was considering suicide to assure that his wife's financial security after he was stripped of his National Health Service pension. Primrose Shipman received a full NHS pension. She would not have been entitled to it if Shipman had lived past the age of 60. Additionally, there was evidence that Primrose, who had consistently protested Shipman's innocence despite the overwhelming evidence, had begun to suspect his guilt. Shipman refused to take part in courses which would have encouraged acknowledgement of his crime, leading to a temporary removal of privileges, including the opportunity to telephone his wife. During this period, according to Shipman's cellmate, he received a letter from Primrose exhorting him, telling him, "Tell me everything no matter what." A 2005 inquiry found that Shipman's suicide could not have been predicted or prevented, but that procedures should nonetheless be re-examined. Now, here's my analysis of that. And I would not be surprised if some of you listening automatically had the same thought that I do. Of course, the prison is going to say that his suicide could not have been prevented or predicted, because if they agreed with that, then they would be liable. They would be admitting liability. We did not watch that person. Look at Jeffrey Epstein. They said he killed himself. There's all these conspiracies that he was murdered because he has all these connections to the most powerful people in the world, and they paid to get him killed. I'll never know the answer to that, and you won't either. Personally, I don't think he killed himself because I think he was way too arrogant. People like him have tremendous egos. And the longer they get away with these things, the more egotistical they are. So I don't believe he killed himself. He was a narcissist. Narcissists, project everything onto someone else. It's never their fault. So I don't believe he killed it. I don't believe he killed himself. But again, my opinion. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me if his wife decided that she was starting to believe that it was him. I mean, maybe he loved his wife that much. If that's the case, and he, loved his wife and he respected his wife, I think he would have probably told her. But I think also that it's interesting that they have that issue of financial security. If he was still truly in love with her, if he really cared for her, wanted to take care of her, and financial security was what he was concerned about, then that would be the only thing that I would agree with saying he killed himself for. He sacrificed himself so his wife would have a pension, because he knew he was never getting out to help with that. I can see perhaps someone doing that. It does not fit. It does not fit that most serial killers don't have empathy, nor do they care about many people, even the people they're married to, even their children. They just don't have a lot of emotion. So that would be the only thing I can think of. If he killed himself, it was for his wife to have a pension. And that's only if he was not, self-absorbed egomaniac who would never kill himself, because killing yourself is pretty much an admission of guilt. They say, and they being people in the court system and people who deal with the court system and the prison system, they don't. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was reading something while I was saying that. Oh my gosh, I hate it when I do that. It'll come to me in a minute. It'll come to me. Um, After Shipman's body was released to his family, it remained in Sheffield for more than a year, despite multiple false reports about his funeral. His widow was advised by police against burying her husband in case the grave was attacked. Shipman was eventually cremated in March 19th of 2005 at Hutcliffe Wood Crematorium, and the cremation took place outside normal working hours to maintain secrecy and was attended only by Primrose and the couple's 4 children. That's unusual. I don't know that I've ever known of anybody going to the cremation of their family member. Maybe it's different in the UK, huh? January 2001, Chris Gregg, a senior West Yorkshire police detective, was selected to lead an investigation into 22 of the West Yorkshire deaths. Now, this was prior to Shipman's, suicide. So he probably knew this was going on. Following this, the Shipman inquiry, submitted in July of 2002, concluded that he had killed at least 218 of his patients between 75 and 98, during which time he practiced in Todmorden and Hyde. Dame Janet Smith, the judge who submitted the report, admitted that many more deaths of a suspicious nature could not be definitively ascribed to Shipman. Most of his victims were elderly women in good health. In her 6th and final report, issued on January 24th of 2005, Smith reported that she believed that Shipman had killed 3 patients, and she had serious suspicions about 4 further deaths, including that of a 4-year-old girl, which would completely be out of his target, if you will. He did not typically kill anyone that wasn't an older female. During the early stage of his medical career at Pontefract General Infirmary, that's where they thought he perhaps killed that 4-year-old. In total, 459 people died while under his care between 71 and 98, and it's uncertain how many of those were murder victims, as he was often the only doctor to certify death. Some estimates of Shipman's total victim count are over that 27-year period was 250 people. The GMC charged 6 doctors who signed cremation forms for Shipman's victims with misconduct, claiming that they should have noticed the pattern between Shipman's home visits and his patients' deaths. All these doctors were found not guilty. In October of 2005, a similar hearing was held against 2 doctors who worked at Tameside General Hospital in 94, who failed to detect that Shipman had deliberately administered a grossly excessive dose of morphine. The Shipman inquiry recommended changes to the structure of the GMC. So again, big changes after cases like this, big changes in a lot of things, right? In 2005, it came to light that Shipman may have stolen jewelry from his victims. In 98, police had seized over 10,000 pounds worth of jewelry they found in his garage. In March of 2005, when Primrose asked for its return, police wrote to the families of Shipman's victims asking them to identify the jewelry. Unidentified items were handed to the Assets Recovery Agency in May. The investigation ended in August, and then authorities returned 66 pieces to the murdered patients' families, and one was a platinum ring, for which the family provided a photograph as proof of ownership. A memorial garden to Shipman's victims, called the Garden of Tranquility, opened in Hyde Park, Hyde, on July 30th, 2005. And as of early 2009, families of friends